Welcome back, boys and girls. Figured couldn't stay away, so I decided to shoot another video. I've been out filing saws all afternoon, and I had to repair a saw for a customer. I just went and dropped it off to him, get that out the door. I filed up a couple of my saws so I can get at that firewood pile. That's what it looks like now. If you guys didn't watch a previous video, I moved all that stuff over here. So this stuff's all 5 or 6 years old. There's a bunch of maple, some locust, there's a little bit of white oak in here, and some red oak stuff. I only cut that all up and split it for this year. You saw me move all these logs down here for the 8x8 order. And what I'm going to do is, I filed up my little, I don't know if you guys go back in my videos, but tried to follow along with this MS250 that I bought for my wife. My wife has a steel MS180C, and she actually had that saw before she met me, and she wanted a saw that was light, that had a little more power than the 180. And on one of those Black Friday sales, probably about 8 years ago, I bought this clone saw, an MS250, steel MS250 clone from Holzfforma. And I did a whole series of videos cutting firewood in the summertime. I contract cut firewood for people. And one of the reasons to hire me is that I keep chains sharp and I bring my own shit. They put their guys in the log piles and they wreck chains and wreck saws, and then they bring them all to me to fix them, sharpen them. So they just contract me out to cut the wood for them. So I go in there for an afternoon, cut them 2 or 3 cords, and then they split it. So I took this saw out. My wife decided it was a little too heavy for her, and she couldn't start it. It's got real high compression. And I tried to kill the thing on video. I got tons of views on those videos trying to kill this thing over a couple of years. I haven't been able to kill it. So I filed it, but I want to put a tune on it. It hasn't been running all that great. So I want to try and tune it, and what I decided to do was, rather than do it with my mics on and have the noise canceling mess with the sound of the saw, so you don't really know what's going on, I'm going to do a tuning video on this saw and see if we can tune it, because that's one problem with the China saws, is that the China carbs don't tune very well. But we're going to try and tune it and get it to where, I mean, it always runs, just it'll tend to, when it's not running great, it'll tend to die when you when you put it down. It won't stay idling. And when you mess with the idles, then it'll go a little too high. You go a little too high, the chain moves. You go to a little too low, it bogs out and dies as soon as you put it down. But we're going to put a tune on this saw. I'm going to do it raw video. Hopefully this will help. If you watch my other tuning video not too long ago, I have my mics on and that messes with things. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire the saw up. We're going to let it warm up a little bit. We're going to check where it is on the idle side. We're going to mess with the low screw. For those of you who didn't watch the other video, there are 2 mixture adjustment screws on chainsaw. A low screw, which is marked with L, and that's usually the screw that's closest to the cylinder head. And then a high screw, which is marked with H. Those are both mixture screws. They adjust the amount of fuel that's mixed with the air on your low idle circuit and on your high side, your high RPM on your saw. On a good running saw, those are the only 2 screws that you really need. There is another screw on your saw that is just a throttle screw, and on steels they're called an LA screw, and on some Husqvarnas they have a T for throttle. All that does is open and close the butterfly valve just a little bit, so if you don't want to mess with your mixtures then and your saw's dying, you can add a little more throttle. Or if your chain starts to spin because maybe you go from summer to winter and you're getting more air in your saw, then you can back it down a little bit to stop your chain from spinning. But the best thing I can tell you is you should learn to adjust your saws with just the L screw and the H screw and forget about the throttle screw altogether. And you do on most saws, have to adjust them going from summer to winter, winter to summer, or up and down elevation. So we're going to see what we can do with this saw. The only thing that I have not done with this saw is replace that spark plug with an NGK, and I think I'm going to do that. There's a little bird sitting on my tire. I wonder if he'll stay there. Let's see if we can get a view of him. Oh, don't fly away, bird. See him right on my tire? Oh, here he goes. They're all out here. It's a sunny day and not 50,000 degrees below zero, so they're trying to get some food. But I just filed this thing. I just set the rakers on. It's all ready to go. What I'll probably do with this saw is I'll probably run it until I'll run a whole tank through it, just cutting through that pile. And then I'll pull my 272 out and probably cut some of the bigger stuff. So, but this thing really, to be honest with you, punches way above its weight class. So I'm going to back you guys up, and I'll pull you in closer after I get started. And we will try, we'll check it out, we'll see where it is with the tachometer, we'll adjust the low screw, try and get it dialed in, and we'll set the high side. I think it's running a little rich on the high side right now. So we're going to set that to, right now it's clicking out of choke. It's getting worn. This saw's got miles on it. If I had to give you a number, I'll guarantee you that I have made, this saw cost $100 shipped. I'll guarantee you I've made over $10,000 with the saw. So let's see if she'll fire up. It's cold. It hasn't started in a while. Warm up a little bit. And then what we're going to do, I know that it's idling a little bit high right now. See if it settles down a little bit as it warms up. And we're going to adjust the low side. What I want to do is I want to turn the low side turn it left and right, and what will happen is you turn it one way, the RPMs will start to go down, and when they go down, you want to go back the other way. It'll go up, and then it'll go down again, and then you want to try to find the middle between those two. Right in between, so I went to the left, which is screwing the screw in, that's making it leaner, it's taking fuel away, and then I went to the right, and you heard the throttle go up and down, and then up and down, and I got it set right in the middle right now, which is a little high. What I kind of want to do, in a typical saw, I would back the screw out just a little bit right now to get the idle to set down. It gives me a little more fuel. It tends to make the saw easier to start. So let's see where the idle is, and then we'll back it out just a little bit and see if we can get it to settle down around 2,800, 3,000. idling at 3,500. Maybe you can see over my shoulder the tack while I'm doing this. I'll actually zoom you in a little bit. I'll zoom you in a little. You'll be able to see the tack. So it's going 33, 35. And it's a little boggy off the trigger. So we want to get that so that it's instantaneous. It doesn't fog like that. I'm going to put a little more fuel. Alright, with 25, 26, we want to give it 2,700, 2,900, 2,600, 2,700. I want to lean it out just a little bit. I'm going to go back and screw it in just a bit. You heard the RPM come up a little and sound like it might come up too much. That's 36, 37, come on, let's hear what the trigger's like. So back on just a little bit. I richened it out just a little teeny little bit, like less than this much in the turn. Sounds pretty close right now. 27, 3,000, 31, 3,000. Now if I could get it there without the chain moving, I kind of like that a lot. Let's hear how the trigger is. Okay. Now the low side's really good right now. We're going to tune the high side. The low side is, you know, for a China carburetor, it's moving around a little bit, but it's idling decent. The chain's not moving. I like where it is. The trigger response is perfect. We're going to tune the high side. So let's see where it is on the high side. Get to where you can see the tachometer here. I know that it's loud. I'm sorry, but it's the best way for me to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the saw out. You got to walk away so you can hear me. I know I'm zoomed in, but you're going to need it. We're going to clear the saw out first, so we're going to whip it up to full throttle a few times before we check it, just because, so it's not sitting here idle and loaded up with fuel and you get a false reading. No one will go too far with it. Oh, hold on one second. Let's do this. Okay, I'm not going to do this back out. I'm going to shut this off. That saw should, if it's running good, start right back up, which is a telltale sign if everything's good. We're going to talk about the high side a little bit. You can, if you set your saws too high, burn your saw up. If you go too lean on the high side, you'll burn your saw up. You'll ruin your piston and cylinder. There are two ways to do this. Number one is to do it with a tachometer, like I'm going to show you. Number two is to tune it, go high until you lose the four-stroking, and I'm going to let you hear what it sounds like for it to four-stroke. You can turn it up until it doesn't four-stroke anymore at full throttle, and then back it off just a little bit, add a little more fuel, make it richer, back the screw out until it starts four-stroking again with it wide open, out of the wood with no load. And then when you put it in the wood, it will clean up. And hopefully we'll be able to hear that when you hear the saw run. And I apologize, not having my mics on, it's going to be hard for you to hear, but I'm going to explain that to you when I do this. So we're going to check where it is. I guarantee it's a little rich right now. So I'm going to guess it's 11.5 to 12,000. We want to get it up around 13 to 13.5 on a saw like this is pretty good. The more fuel you give it, the more grunt it's going to have if it's not ported and not modified. So when you see 13.5, sometimes on a saw like a 272, if you take it to 13.5, it'll lose all its balls on the low side. The 272s like to run around 2,800, 3,000 if they're not modified. If you modify them, it's a totally different story. All right, you'll four-stroke at 14 grand, where this saw will probably stop four-stroking around 13.5. But I'd like to keep it somewhere between 13 and 13.5 is good for me for a firewood saw. I just want the thing to start every time, stay running when I put it down, and not be too lean, which is revving too high and burn my saw. So we're going to check it. I will let you hear the four-stroking. We're going to turn it up to a reasonable spot. Now you can tune your saw in the wood. You can just cut with it, and with it four-stroking, make it rich. So turn the screw in a little bit so it's four-stroking very heavy. Go cut with it, and when you're cutting, if it's still four-stroking while you're cutting, lean it out until it stops. That's how you would tune it in the wood. The only reason you do that is if you change bars a lot. So if you set your high side on a really small bar and then you put a really big bar on it and go into really big wood, it's going to keep your RPMs down in the cut, and it might four-stroke during the cut. You might have to lean it out a little bit more. So, but basic little saw like this, basic tune, we'll check it. I'll let you hear the four-stroking. We're going to lean it out a little bit. I'll guarantee it needs to be leaned out. And then we'll cut, and I'll let you hear it in the cut. So that was just an explanation. Now this saw should, I'm going to just back you up so you can see me, should fire up first pull. If it doesn't, there's something wrong with it. And then we will tune the high side. All right, so that's not good what it just did. That's not good what it just did. Should not have done that. Should have fired right up. I'm going to pull you in closer to the back. Make sure that you can see it. All right, and so I'm going to let you hear it four-stroke first, and I'm going to clear it out. I don't know if you can hear it burbling on the top. Noise. That's the four-stroke. All right, so this saw is still, we're in the China car build now. I don't like when the low side is right now. Alright, let's check where the high side is. like it's loading up with fuel. See if it'll fire right back up. Now we're into China Carbville. So what this is indicating to me is that there's something else going on with the saw. So I'm going to zoom you guys back out. Now, whether it's the China Carb or not, I don't know, but there's something else going on with the saw. It seems like when I go wide open throttle, when it comes back out, it seems like it's starving itself for fuel. There's nothing left to keep it running. Especially if I give it a little more fuel on the low screw, it did it a couple of times. This might be a candidate to use the throttle screw to keep it running with a little more fuel on the low side. So let me see if it'll start back up. Sometimes it this has kind of been the problem that I've been seeing. Oh, there it goes. I'm going to richen out the low side a little bit. I'm going to bring the idle down, and then I'm going to use the throttle screw to bring the idle back up a little bit. Get a little more closed circuit fuel. It's kind of perfect right now. I don't know why it doesn't get the fit. Tend to do this, but it's in a pretty good spot right now. I'm going to let you hear it. I'm going to let you see it cut. This is China Carb build off. Guarantee you that. Cut this maple right here. Hopefully it stays nice and stable like it is right now. Sometimes the China Carb build goes up and down, and pretty good sized maple. There's a white oak here too. That's backed up. You got a white oak here and a maple here. Maple's pretty good size for this saw. See if it fires back up first pull. Yeah, so I'll tell you one thing right now. I think that saw is a candidate for an NGK. I really do, because not a lot can explain what happens with it. It shouldn't need, the window to get that carb dialed in on that low side should not be that small. But you can see there's beautiful maple, white oak, there's some elm. We get a piece of elm here too. You can see it there. There's elm, the maple, the white oak. You know, these are all solid logs. That saw does punch way above its pay grade. But that's what it tends to be with that carb, is it tends to be finicky. If you just get it out a little bit, it'll get into that stupid die-in, not wanting to start kind of crap. Let's see if it'll fire right back up now, because I think I got it really close. And I think adding the fuel on the low side helped. Should fire first pull. It's not dying anymore when I come out of the throttle. So I think this one's pretty dialed in, and what I will do, like I said, with this saw is I will go through and I'll cut a whole tank of fuel, buck up as much as I can, drag them all over to the splitter, split this all up before I pull my 272 out to do the bigger logs. Now this will do the bigger logs. It's just really tough on a clutch on a little saw like this. Let me take one off that. That's a chunk of white oak right there. That's a big, you know, good sized white oak. Let's see what it pulls like in that. So that's a pretty good sized piece. Had a knot in it. I had to cut through the knot. That's why I had to rock around the other side. That's a pretty good chunk of white oak right there for a little saw like that. Looking at the bar, this is an 18-inch bar on here. You know, that's a pretty good chunk of white oak for a little saw like that. I think we got it tuned in pretty close. So that's kind of what I wanted to shoot. I'm all sharpened up. I'll do the rest of this tomorrow. It's starting to almost getting dark, and Mama's going to go to the Veterans Center to work this afternoon. Or donate her time this afternoon to the Veterans Center, and we will get through that pile. There's probably enough wood in that pile to get me through January. I think easily through January. But if you guys have any questions, you have to understand something about doing this. It's really hard sometimes, unless you make yourself up a script or something like that, to do some of these videos and stay on point and not miss things or not explain something very well. The one thing I can tell you is that when you get that low side tuned right, your saw should start first pull every time. And if it doesn't, there's something else going on. Well, there's our knot fire. So right now on the low side, we're dialed in, but it's a real small window. If I go a little bit either way, it goes kind of bonkers, wacko. So I think this is actually a good candidate for using the throttle or the LA screw and adding fuel on the low side. As long as your trigger doesn't get boggy, but adding fuel on the low side to help you starting, and then adjusting with your throttle screw to get your throttle speed right. So I hope this helps somebody. Like I said, if you have any questions, hit me up. And I hope with doing this without mics that you can hear everything better. Hear the saw run better. You not necessarily hear me better, but hear the saw run better. When you're tuning an OEM saw like my 372 or my 272, it's a completely different animal. You know, they do exactly what they're supposed to do. And there's a really good sized window where that saw will run, start, and sit there and idle perfect. It's not teeny like sometimes with these Chinese carburetors. And I don't know why that is, but it is the way it is. So I'm gonna say goodnight for now, and I will see you guys on the other side. This Power Solutions out.